Hi there, everyone, and happy Monday to you all. I hope you all had a wonderful weekend, and thanks so much for joining us tonight on Up North Live Unscripted at 6:30. Well, didn't see a lot of winter weather that we saw last week over the weekend. A lot of melting and some warmer temperatures, and that continued into today. So let's turn things over to our meteorologist, Joe Charlevoix. Joe, what does the rest of our week look like?
Well, we're going to start cooling back down again. So this little warm up, and we did. We lost, I know in my yard, I lost quite a bit of snow.
A lot of snow, yep.
Especially today, we had highs in the 40s, but we're going to go back down into the 20s by Thursday. And then there are a couple chances for some snow. So if you're wondering, are we going to melt everything? I don't think so. I think we're going to get a little bit of snow back in the forecast here. So we'll look at that, Maya. And then also, you know, the weekend before Christmas is coming up. We'll look at that. It does look a little chilly. And I'll be back with that a little later.
All right, sounds good, Joe. Thanks so much. And let's start off with a local story that we have been working on for you. So we've been sharing multiple stories about PFAS in Cadillac and how more private wells are being tested and more PFAS levels are becoming detected. So in November, we shared with you that 2 homes in the city that were tested for PFAS showed results above the state's criteria for acceptable drinking water. And I spoke with a woman who lives in one of those houses who she's not only upset with the actual results themselves, but how she found out about them.
It's scary. It's scary to know that all these years we could be drinking something that could harm us later.
Alicia Hose and her family have lived in this house on Marathon Drive in Cadillac for 22 years and have been drinking this water for those 22 years.
Everything seems great. Like I said, it tastes good, feels good, smells good.
Everything seemed great with their private water well until the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, or EGLE, asked if they could test their water.
So I didn't have any expectations, didn't know what may happen or how it would come back. Unfortunately, I was never notified.
Those results came back on November 13th, but Alicia didn't find out about the results until 2 weeks later when she looked at the newspaper.
And there was a map of Cadillac, and then there was 2 red dots. And that's when I started thinking, is one of those red dots me?
Those red dots represent areas where PFAS levels were detected at or above Michigan drinking water criteria.
I was very upset, especially, like I said, nobody had reached out.
So Alicia reached out to EGLE to verify if that red dot was indeed her home.
I finally, after multiple phone calls, confirmed that, yes, that red dot was this address. And I had heard nothing. So the only thing they said is don't drink it and don't allow your animal to drink it.
How much do you think all this will cost between the water bottles, the testing, the filtration system?
Thousands. I mean, you got to, right now at this point, I think I invest well over $100 a month just in bottled water.
But finances aren't the only thing Alicia and her family are worried about.
I did have a son that's very young that was diagnosed with squamous cell carcinoma, cancer, and I can't say that that's directly connected.
Is a chemical an agent that can actually cause harm to the human body. It can actually cause certain cancers.
I took Alicia's concerns to City Hall and spoke with the city's utilities director.
I'm sorry for her frustration on that. It would be bad to find out in the newspaper.
Now that she has found out, I asked Dietland what Alicia should do moving forward to protect her and her family.
You had a positive. They're giving filters away to those people because obviously that's the first treatment. Second treatment, I would say, is, you know, if you can hook up to a different source.
Alicia did receive filters, but as of right now, doesn't have the option to hook up to the city's water system.
Ms. Hose on Marathon, that does not have any water or sewer ran down it. It just, again, it's on the edge of town. We haven't gotten there. We have the ability that we could run water and sewer down there, but that would be a project that we would have to enter into.
Dietland says he reached out to the state to see if there's any funding available to help with this project.
I put in an intent to apply to see. We don't know how widespread this problem is going to be and how much we will need if it is widespread.
Dietland says the city is doing everything it can to help people, but Alicia thinks it could be doing more.
I still haven't got my test results in the mail, so I'm not getting a lot of communication, which I'm not saying that's their fault, right? But I'm not getting a lot of communication with that to know what do I do next?
And Alicia was told over the phone that results show her well has 13 parts per trillion of a PFAS chemical, but again. She still has not received a physical copy of her test results that came back more than a month ago. I did reach out to Eagle to try to find out why she was never properly notified of her test results, but they did not get back to me as of right now. So this is a story that we will continue to keep you updated on as we learn more, and I'm sure there's going to be more stories about other folks impacted by PFAS in Cadillac and around northern Michigan as well. But let's turn things over to a bit of a lighter note. So we are having a very special guest on UpNorthLive Unscripted today. I'm sure a lot of you folks have heard about the National Writer Series. Authors from all over come to Traverse City and host an event and get to talk with the community. And this Wednesday, they are hosting Bill Morris, who wrote this lovely book right here, The Lions Finally Roar. And maybe the timing of this isn't the best because the Lions, have a little bump in the road after yesterday's loss and all the injuries, but still an amazing time to be a Lions fan. So let's bring in Bill to hear more about his book and where he got the idea from. So Bill, thanks so much for joining us on Unscripted tonight.
Oh, well, thank you, Maya, for having me. I appreciate this.
Yeah, and just so folks know, we can hear Bill great, but for some reason his video isn't showing up as well, but as long as we can hear you, that is what is most important. So Bill, do you want to start by giving us some background on who you are?
Well, I've written 6 books now, and this one came out of a little bit of family history, Maya. My father worked at Ford Motor Company in Detroit for 16 years, and I grew up there, and we were Lions fans. And one of my father's jobs at Ford Motor Company was the personal executive assistants of William Clay Ford Sr. And my father was working with him when he bought the Lions in 1963, and they were quite close, traveled the world together, and my father was sort of there at the beginning. And late in his life, I sat down with a tape recorder and taped his life story, and a lot of that story, of course, revolved around our time in Detroit and his experiences with the Lions and William Clay Ford and the Ford family. So that was really the germ of the book. It was 25 years before it turned into a book, but that's where it all really started.
So at what point did you realize that you wanted to use that recording and everything you knew about your dad and the Ford family and the Lions and turn that all into a book?
Well, I tell you when it really started in my head. I'd followed the Lions for years and years, kind of from afar. I watched them stumble for years and have these terrible coaches, bad general managers. And then in 2020, when Sheila Ford Hamp, Bill Ford's daughter, took over the team, I noticed she brought in a very exciting general manager and kind of a crazy head coach named Dan Campbell. And I thought, aha, here's a new day for the Lions. Finally, they're going to get it right. Well, those guys lost their first 10 games. I don't know if you remember that 3 years ago. And then they got a little better at the end of that year. And I thought, there's a book here because there's been 3 owners now. They've had 3 stadiums. It's been 60 years almost. And they've won 1 playoff game, and they keep stumbling no matter what happens. And so I set out to write the book thinking I was going to be writing a story about futility and failure and sort of a culture of dysfunctional culture. But then, lo and behold, in the middle of the second season, Sheila had a press conference at Allen Park, and she said, look, I know the fans are frustrated. I'm frustrated, and the team is frustrated. But I believe in these guys, and I believe in the system we've got in place, and I just want people to stay with us, and we're going to turn this around. And indeed, right then, they turned it around. In the middle of the season before last year, they had that great year. And so I had to rethink the ending of my book. I started out thinking I was going to be writing a story of futility, and I wound up writing a story of redemption and how the team turned around and got within an eyelash of their first Super Bowl last year and look like they might be going this year if they can get over these injuries like you just mentioned.
Yes. Injuries have been a big bummer for the Lions this season. We can talk a little bit more about that later, but going back to your book, so I'm just kind of like browsing through the pages, and it looks like it is separated into different sections based on different time periods. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I divided the book into 4 quarters like a football game.
Nice.
And there was it gave the narrative some flow, I hope. And again, I didn't want to write just a football book. I wanted to write a book about Detroit, and the history of Detroit, the people of Detroit, and why it is that they have this deep, deep bond with this football team. Not just Detroit, that's all of Michigan, really. Maybe a little bit of the UP kind of goes with the Packers, but there's a deeply loyal fan base to this team, and people have stayed with them through those horrible years. And I wanted to get into that sort of psychology and try to figure that out. And that led me to write a lot about the history of the city, the car business, the Motown music, the MC5, all the great things that happened in Detroit and the horrible things that happened in Detroit. And all that, how that is sort of stitched together with the history of the Lions. So that was what I wanted to do. I wanted to write a Detroit book. And in fact, I dedicate the book to, the dedication reads, to the people of Detroit who survive everything America can dish out. Mm-hmm. And I think that describes a Lions fan pretty well.
Yes, that sums it up pretty well.
That line actually comes from the great poet Philip Levine, a Detroit guy who started out working on the line at Chevy Gear and Axle and went on to become the poet laureate of the United States. Philip Levine is one of my favorite poets. And he wrote that line, and I thought, I'm going to steal it because I think it's so beautiful.
That is great. So the book ends after the end of last season, right?
That's right.
So there's still a lot more to come in terms of the Lions season this year and the road ahead. And, you know, hopefully one of these years we'll actually get a trip to the Super Bowl. So no matter what happens, is there going to be a part 2 to this book?
Well, I tell you, my publisher is thinking that if they go to the Super Bowl, which is still very, very likely, they're going to bring out a second edition with a new chapter at the end explaining what happened this season.
Okay.
The rest of the book is pretty much intact. I don't think that's going to change. But yes, indeed, if they go to the Super Bowl, I gotta write about that. After all these years,
You have
to. I couldn't pass up that opportunity, Maya.
Right. So speaking of that, our question of the day today for this show is, how confident are you in the Detroit Lions making it to the Super Bowl? So those folks watching, you can scan the QR code on your screen right now to take you to our website to vote. But we put it on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being not confident at all, 5 being the most confident. So Bill, as someone who knows this team very well, knows the history of the Lions, knows the entire story, what would you rank them? How confident are you that the Lions can still make the Super Bowl this year?
Well, if you'd asked me 24 hours ago, I would have said 5.
Yeah.
But after what happened yesterday, not so much the score as the fact that so many guys get banged up and hurt. And their defenses looked really porous last night. And I think they got exposed. But, you know, maybe some of these guys will come back. They still got a wonderful team, top to bottom. They're deep, they're hungry, they're talented, they're ferocious. And they've got a wild man for a coach, and I wouldn't write them off. You know, everybody in Michigan now is all bummed out about last night. But come on, they're 12-2. If you just asked me at the beginning of the season, after 14 weeks, would you take a 12-2 record? I would have said, oh boy, yes, I will.
Yep.
So they're not exactly falling on their face like Lions teams in the past. Yeah, they hit a little bump in the road, but we'll see what happens. I mean, the next 3 weeks are going to be very interesting. I'd give them a 4 if I had to put it on a scale of 1 to 5. And the only reason I'm not giving them a 5 is because of the injuries.
I'm in the exact same boat as you. If you would have asked me, like you said, 24 hours ago, I would have said a 5. Today, I voted for a 4. I am still confident they can do it. Like you said, this team is very talented, but the injuries are definitely going to maybe put a damper on that. So we have a couple of minutes left. So Bill, is there anything that you really want to mention about your book before I let you go that we haven't talked about yet?
Well, yeah, I really hope people will come out to the Opera House in Traverse City on Wednesday at 7 o'clock. I'm going to be on stage with a great guy named Keith Dave, who was a hockey writer for the Free Press for many years, wrote some books. He's a knowledgeable, smart, funny guy. And we're just going to have a freewheeling conversation, kind of like we're doing right now, Maya. And I want people in the audience to feel free to ask questions and give opinions and vent if they want to. We're just going to have a good time, and I hope people will come out. You can sign up, and you can also attend it virtually at nationalwritersseries.org. If you go there, it's possible to attend the event without actually coming to town. And I understand that the Cambria Suites Hotel is offering discounts to people who come to town for the event if they want to spend the night. So it's going to be a big night, the biggest night of my life, and I'm really thrilled about it. And I'm grateful to you and the people at the station for having me on, and also for the people at the National Writers Series for inviting me. This is a big, big honor for me.
Absolutely. Well, we're really grateful to have you on Unscripted tonight. It was so great talking with you, Bill. I can't wait to read your book, and go Lions. So thanks so much for joining us. Again, he will be in Traverse City at the City Opera House on Wednesday at 7 o'clock for the National Writers Series. Really quick, can we pull up our question of the day full screen just so everyone can see it? Again, it is, how confident are you that the Detroit Lions will make the Super Bowl this year? You can scan the QR code on your screen right now to vote. And we'll take another look at the live results and some comments at the end of the show. But we do need to take a quick commercial break. Joe will be joining us again in a few minutes. He'll have much more on your forecast for the rest of the week, so stay with us.
I'm Jada Johnson from Big Boys TV, and the Fish and Game Report is sponsored by Johnson's Propane.
Well, most of the snow we got last week has melted at this point. It is a pretty warm Monday, and some areas even saw a bit of rain today. But Joe says that we do have colder temperatures and snow in the forecast.
We do, indeed. A couple, well, actually, even tomorrow, maybe a few snowflakes around. After this, you know, we talked about this in our, I think, the 5 o'clock news on NBC. You brought it up that it's been like snowing and then it warms up and melts. And
it's been a pattern this winter.
It is. Yeah. It absolutely is. I want to show you something though before we get into weather. This was taken in Grand. That's in Grand Traverse County, south of Traverse City. This was Friday morning, but I wanted to show you. Look at the light pillars there. Pretty cool. So you get, in the wintertime, you get ice crystals suspended in the air, and they're oftentimes plate shaped. And so when you get lights from street lights and things like that, they shoot up vertically, that light through those plate-shaped ice crystals, and you get these light pillars. Kind of a cool look there. Here's a look right now. This is the Mackinac Bridge. You can't quite see the top of the towers there because they're shrouded in clouds and fog. And obviously it's a little bit dreary out there and wet. As we look at our three big things in weather, cooling down this week. By Thursday, we're back into the 20s. That'll carry over into next weekend. There are a couple chances for snow, especially Wednesday and then Thursday afternoon and night, and some lake effect snow next weekend. But at this point, it doesn't seem like the lake effect snow is going to be very widespread. A couple areas of showers. Let's look at radar. There it is. A little rain just working through Traverse City and Cadillac. Another batch coming on shore around Frankfort, Manistee, Ludington. This extends up into Emmett County and then right over Beaver Island into parts of Mackinac and Luce counties this evening. And here is a look at what we expect moving forward. So later tonight we'll get down near freezing, and then some snow will start mixing in by tomorrow morning. I still don't think it's going to be a big deal tomorrow, but some snow showers. There's noon on Tuesday. A better chance for snow Wednesday. Not a big storm, but we will see maybe a couple inches of accumulation during the day on Wednesday. And when we take a look at that snow accumulation through tomorrow, so over the next 24 hours, an inch or less really for any one spot. But then there's Wednesday, and you can see an inch or two, maybe a couple, 2 to 3 there around Petoskey, for instance. Then another chance for snow comes in Thursday, right there. Thursday night, early Friday, so late Thursday, Thursday night, Friday, snowy, and then perhaps a little bit of lake effect snow into the weekend. So here's our extended forecast. There it is, snow arriving Thursday afternoon, Thursday night. Snow showers hanging around through Friday, and then a little chilly to start the weekend. By the way, Saturday, we're still in fall. It doesn't seem like it, but Saturday, that is the first day of winter.
All right, thanks so much, Joe. We're going to take another quick break, but we'll check in with our sports director, Harrison Beebe, coming up next. Stay with us. Welcome back, everyone. Let's bring in sports director Harrison Beebe live now to see what he is working on for our 11 o'clock show tonight. Hey, Harrison.
Maya, how's it going?
Oh, you know, pretty good. How's it going wherever you are?
Well, I'm working on something for our 11 o'clock show tonight, as you just said. I made a long road trip today to see a pretty good girls basketball game. We got Harbor Springs hosting St. Ignace. Harbor Springs has got one of, if not the best girls basketball player in the area, in Olivia Flynn. I believe she's getting close to 2,000 career points, which is something not a lot of basketball players get to in the state. And St. Ignace under Dorian Ingles, always a pretty good basketball program. They've won state titles in the past, and so it should be a pretty good non-conference matchup to see here tonight in Harbor Springs.
Nice. And any other local sports tonight?
Well, I'm sure there's a bunch of games going on, but seeing as this was an hour 45 from the station, I kind of took up most of my time heading up here.
So that means we can talk about the Lions.
Well, let's go ahead. Let's go into the poll. I just lent my vote to the poll of the odds of making the Super Bowl. How confident you are of the Lions making the Super Bowl? And yes, there's a lot of bad to come out of the last 24 hours. But as I told one of my Lions friends earlier today, I'm going to guess crazier things have happened and teams have still made deep runs in the postseason. I'm not guaranteeing a Super Bowl. I'm not guaranteeing they'll get to the Super Bowl. But there's still a lot of talent left on this team, and they still control their own destiny for a lot of good things. So I'm just going to throw the optimism card out there and say there's no reason to throw it. Yes, it's a disappointing set of news to get over the last 24 hours, but I still think there's a lot on this roster healthy that can make things happen, that can, and depending on how the other teams play, it could spell a deep run, perhaps to that big game in February.
So how confident are you on a scale of 1 to 5?
I answered 3.
Okay.
Because, yes, there's reason to be hesitant, and you know me, Maya, from personal conversations, I tend to lean hesitant with this franchise, but this has been a very good team, and they're very well coached motivationally. So I think there's a lot in their favor to at least have a puncher's chance.
Sure. All right, Harrison, thanks so much for joining us. I'm sure we'll hear much more about the Lions tonight at 11. Excuse me, as well as that Harbor Springs St. Ignace girls basketball game. Let's take a quick break so I need some water.
Salon services are furnished by Epiphany Advanced Academy in East Acme.
Let's take a look at the live results for our question of the day. How confident are you in the Detroit Lions making it to the Super Bowl? As of right now, looks like 28% of people are giving it a 4, 1 being not confident at all, 5 being the most confident. You can see the live results on your screen right now. We have a lot of comments. I don't have time to read them all, so I'm just going to sum them all up with this one comment from Jason. It's getting difficult with all the injuries, but don't count them out just yet. That'll do it for UpNorthLive Unscripted this evening. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to see you back here at 11 o'clock tonight.